What type of English should you learn? British English, American English, Canadian English, Australian English, or maybe another variety of English? That's what I'm going to talk to you about in today's video. You see, when you first start learning a language, this is a question that will inevitably come up. Which form of the language should I learn? Which accent should I learn? Which variety, which standard should I learn? Because in many languages, including English, there are different forms, there are different varieties, there are different types of the language. And as you know, English is a global language, so we have a lot of different varieties of English. We have American English, we have British English, we have Canadian English, we have Irish English, we have Indian English, we have English from all over the world. And even among those types, there are different accents, there are different ways of speaking, and there are different dialects. For example, when we talk about British English, we have the standard Queen's English, or I guess King's English at this point, received pronunciation. There's also Scottish English. There are also other dialects in the UK, and it's the exact same in the US. There's a standard general American English that you might hear on TV. There's Southern English. There's English from the Pacific Northwest. There's English from Texas. So you can see there are so many different varieties of English, and it can be very confusing to know which you should focus on, especially as somebody learning English as a second language. Now, good news and bad news. The good news is that English is English. For the most part, a British speaker can understand an American speaker. An American speaker can understand an Australian, and so on and so on. So don't overthink this. This is not something that needs to be super complicated. If you focus on learning standard English, you will be understood in most of the world. The bad news is, well, I don't know if this is bad news. There will come a time where you should make a decision. You should decide which variety of English you would prefer to learn. Now, when I talk about varieties of English, I'm talking about the accent, which affects the way we move our mouth. It affects the way we pronounce words. It affects the rhythm. It affects the intonation of the language. I'm also talking about spelling, because some words are spelled differently in American, British, Canadian, and Australian English. And there are some grammatical differences. Now, we won't go into too much detail about that today. The purpose of this video is just to help you figure out which variety of English you should focus on and to give you a sense of clarity so you know how to proceed with your studies. Now, I've created a formula for this, and this is the formula that I use with the students we have in our online programs, which, by the way, if you want to apply, click the link in the description below. Now, I'm going to ask you a series of questions to help you figure out which variety of English you should focus on. The first question is very simple. Where are you? If you're in the US, learn American English. Focus on American English. If you're in the UK, focus on British English. If you're in Canada, Australia, or New Zealand, learn Canadian, Australian, or New Zealand English, and so on and so on. If you're in a country that speaks English, you should learn the standard of English that is common in that country. Pretty straightforward. Now, if you are not in an English-speaking country, maybe you're in Europe, maybe you're in Asia, you're in South America, you're in somewhere in Africa that doesn't speak English as a first language, I want you to answer this question. Who do you speak with the most? At work, amongst friends, and at school? If you speak with Americans, maybe you have a lot of American friends, learn American English. If you have a job at a British company in your country, and all your colleagues are from the UK, then learn British English. If you attend an American university, you might want to learn American English. So focus on the standard of English that you spend the most time with in your daily life. Now, if you don't have any contact with native English speakers, learn whichever you prefer. At the end of the day, this does come down to preference. Maybe you prefer the American accent, maybe you prefer the Canadian accent, maybe you prefer the British way of speaking. If that's you, and you don't live in an English-speaking country, then choose whichever variety of English you prefer. This is very subjective. Now, I reiterate, at the end of the day, English is still English. If you learn standard English, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have any problems understanding people who speak with an American accent, with a British accent, with an Australian accent. That being said, when you do get to a certain level, this becomes more important. It becomes something you might want to think more about, especially if you're working in a country, if you know you're going to move to a country, if you're speaking with people from that country, for example, the US or Canada, then you might want to focus on adapting to their accent, adapting to their spelling, and adapting to some of their vocabulary. So, with that said, let me know in the comments, which variety of English are you learning? Which do you prefer, if you have any preference at all? And are you living in an English-speaking country? Don't forget to subscribe to English at the Ready here on YouTube. Leave a like, and if you want to improve your English and study with us, we have several online programs with teachers from the US, from Canada, and the UK, which will help you speak English more fluently. We offer live classes, recorded classes, support, and so much more to help you reach your goals in English. To apply, click the link in the description below. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.